A word formula is a rule that enables us to calculate an answer based on the numbers given in a question. So for example, distance equals average speed multiplied by time. An algebraic formula is another rule, but one where letters replace words. We can still calculate an answer by substitution. So for example, A equals LW is the algebraic form for the area of a rectangle, with L representing length and W representing width. So let's take a look at a couple of examples together on the board. This first formula we've got up here is the formula to calculate velocity, and it is V equals U plus AT. Now we can't calculate anything with that formula unless they give us enough information to put into it, which they do in this question. They tell us that U equals 2, A equals 4, and T equals 10. So now I know what those three letters are worth. I can substitute them in to calculate, as the question wants, the value of V. So substituting in, V is therefore now going to be equal to, well, U is worth 2, plus A, remember, is 4, and remember when we see AT together with no symbol between them, it means they're being multiplied, so this will become 4 multiplied by 10. Remembering our rules when it comes to the order of operations, we're going to perform 4 multiplied by 10 first to give me 2 plus 40, and then my final answer therefore, 2 add 40 gives me a final answer of 42. Now, if we look at the next one, it's the same formula, but this time they're giving us some negative numbers in there for U, A, and T. So the formula is still going to be the same, but in this next question, V is now going to be equal to, U is minus 3, add A, this time is minus 5, and it's multiplied by T, which is 7. So be careful with these because it's the negative numbers again. The minus 3 will stay there for the moment because the first thing I want to do is to multiply minus 5 by 7. Minus 5 multiplied by 7, remember, is minus 35. Remember, if you have a plus and a minus together there in the middle of the sum, the minus will take precedent because essentially what you're doing is adding a negative number. So we're going to subtract that and it will give us a final answer of minus 3 subtract 35. Be careful again with the negative numbers. It's essentially, imagine minus 3 degrees on a temperature scale and it goes down another 35. So our final answer here would be V equals minus 38. Let's look now at a question that uses the formula that converts Celsius to Fahrenheit in temperature. Now, the formula here is given as C equals 5 over 9 multiplied by F minus 32, where C is degrees Celsius and F is degrees Fahrenheit. And in the question, they want us to convert 5 degrees Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius. So, it's a simple case of substituting in. So C will be equal to 5/9 multiplied by 5 minus 32. This would be a calculator question. So essentially what we're doing is 5/9, 5 subtract 32, remember, will be negative 27. And using your calculator, remember 5/9 of something is multiplied. So it'd be 5/9 multiplied by minus 27, which would say that C equals minus 15. So in other words, minus 15 degrees Celsius. Now, another important thing to be able to do for your exam is to be able to construct a formula given a certain situation. So let's take a look at an example that involves that. The example we've got up here tells us that a taxi journey costs 50 pence for the first mile and then 25 pence for each mile after. And what it wants us to do is to write a formula to calculate the total cost, T, of the journey. So our formula, therefore, is going to be T equals, now remember, 50 pence for the first mile, and that's regardless of how far we go. So there's always going to be the 50 in there to represent the 50 pence. And remember, it's 25 pence for every mile. So in order to work out that part, we'd multiply the number of miles by 25 pence. Because it's a formula, we write that as being 25m, where m represents miles. So that would be our formula. The total cost equals 50 pence plus 25 pence for each extra mile. Now, if they asked us a further question on this, which we see up here, they say if I paid £3.50 for the taxi journey, how many miles did I travel? Well, so let's think about what this represents. So £3.50 in total. Now, the first thing we have to remember is that you always pay 50 pence for any journey. So if I subtract 50 pence from my £3.50, it leaves me with £3, or as we're going to write, 300 pence, because I now need to work out how many extra miles I travelled. It's 25 pence for every mile, remember? So if I want to work out how many miles I travelled for 300 pence, I do 300 divided by 25, which gives me an answer of 12 miles. Now, the common mistake people make here is they write that as their final answer. But what you've forgotten then is that it costs 50 pence for your first mile. So therefore, I travelled 12 miles here, not forgetting that first 50 pence mile I travelled. So my total journey was 13 miles.